I'm still obsessed with the fact that you started out in music.
So you're still connected to your roots.
Oh yeah, I play all the time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that
In fact,
what you do
I
when
took
you're
my
like
whole team-
errors aren't compiling and everything like that, and you're like, oh my gosh, this isn't working.
I
Let me
legit do that.
Really?
Because you know how like sometimes you hit your head against the wall and you're coding, and then
All the time.
and then you have to like force yourself to get out of your seat, walk up, go for a walk, and then you come down and in 5 minutes you're like, of course it's this, and you. So I do that with my
Nice.
what is it? And I'll grab my guitar and I just noodle.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's me. The next path was there was a company called Wufoo. I don't know if you've heard of Wufoo, the Wufoo Forms company.
Yep.
It's a form builder. Chris Coyer used to work there.
Yep.
And so they ran an API competition.
Really?
Yeah.
That's an interesting competition.
Right. And so for their forms, and the prize was a battle axe.
A what?
So, a battle axe.
What?
I have it. I won it. So it's in my spoiler alert. I won. So I have
needs
it. I
money when
literally
you can
have
just
it
get
in
a
my
battle
closet.
axe?
Oh,
right.
nice.
It's the coolest like promo. Kudos to Chris for that.
Yeah.
So I used, I built a mobile app that let you like check the forms and generate them, all that stuff. So I won.
Nice.
And then the company I used, it was called Accelerator. We made a product called Titanium, which was a cross-platform mobile SDK. It was like React Native before React Native existed.
Right.
So it's 2009.
Oh wow, that's early.
Yeah. Yeah. It was just a couple years after
That's
the
like,
iPhone.
yeah,
came
I
out.
was like, that's like right after the iPhone launch.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I used that, and then the company Accelerator called me, and they're like, "Hey, that's cool. Can we write a blog post?" And then it was not a blog post; it was actually an interview. And they're like, "Hey, do you want a job?"
They got you.
Yeah, and I'm
Hey,
like,
come in for an interview.
I have a services company.
yeah.
I was like, I have a service company. I don't want to leave that, whatever. I just build websites. And they're like, you should think about it. And so I called my dad, and I'm like, should I do that? And he's like, just try it for 6 months. If it doesn't work out,
Right.
you can go back to it. And I'm like, all right. So I stayed with that company until we sold it. So it's cool.
That's really cool. Wait, so I'm more held up on the React Native before the React Native. So like people after the iPhone launch, they saw this like C++, what is it? C++, there's C sharp.
Objective-C.
Objective-C. They're like, hell no.
Yep.
Let's do this with web components. Dive more into that. I'm really interested in that part.
Yeah.
Like how, because obviously it wasn't React, or was it?
No, React
No.
didn't exist yet.
Right.
it wasn't.
Yeah. So was it like a PHP type? How was it? How was it like?
It was JavaScript. It was just like how React Native works.
Right.
So there's the bridge, and then so you have JavaScript runtime, and you're invoking like UI table view or something like that in JavaScript, and it would allocate that over into the native land.
So there was still like the
Objective-C.
bridge link layer.
Yeah. We had our own
Interesting.
bridge.
Whoa.
Again, it was basically React Native before React Native existed. We had our own bridge, we had our own runtime.
That's so cool.
And you could create native components in JavaScript.
Interesting.
So-
you were the OGs.
You know how people try to stuff Doom into everything? I think kind of the same thing applies to JavaScript. Like a new tech comes out, like, can I stuff JavaScript into
Oh,
it?
100%.
Yeah,
Always.
yeah.
Always.
JavaScript is always going to be stuffed in everywhere, even where it's like not supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's actually funny. So I'm in a COBOL class right now.
You were
There's
in a
a-
In
COBOL
2025.
COBOL.
Now, right now,
Yes. I'm actually in the second one, advanced COBOL for FinTech. Funny story. No, I'm being so serious.
Okay, all right.
I know
I'm so interested in
I
this.
know my environment division, my identification division. I know my VSAMs and my JCL. Don't get me started. But for those that aren't familiar with that, that is mainframe. And the funny part about COBOL and JCL is you have a character limit of 80 characters. So if you try to type like a complex like math tertiary or something like that, and it runs out of space, you have to do like a leading line where like it's kind of like an M dash on like writing, and you have to do a line on the next line and say, all right, continuing the statement. And I wrote a math statement the other day for an assignment that was 19 lines long of continuation of like a single calculation.
Oh my goodness.
But anyways, on the COBOL aspect, so we had to create something, and obviously the record lengths are really, really small, 80 characters. So you can't have a lot of complex HTML.
Right.
Because what I would normally do is I would bring it into Cursor, I would scope out the UI and then bring that into COBOL. But there's no real good formatter or anything like that. And I was like, wait, this isn't how an SPA does it. An SPA literally just grabs like the bare bones HTML and then loads everything else and hydrates it with like JavaScript. I wonder if I can kind of simulate this. So I made a bare bone HTML with a single script loader in the COBOL to kind of display the data. And then I just mapped all the other things so that way when that page gets loaded, it hits the JavaScript that's hosted on like one of my other servers. And then it hydrates everything like that. And it shows the page. So I've got, it's not React, but it's kind of like a server side, client side thing in COBOL, but JavaScript can be injected in anything.
So yeah, exactly. So what I'm hearing is you're innovating COBOL in
No, we're trying to get rid of
2025.
COBOL. But
That's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you're trying to perpetuate COBOL.
So the reason we're doing COBOL is because, I mean, like all these old banking companies, right?
Yeah, of
My
course.
dad is a COBOL, Rex, and mainframe programmer, and he actually knows the professor. And the professor came in and he's like, hey, I did this contracting thing. I'm making a ton of money. We need to get more kids educated in this because all the COBOL programmers are either retired or dying off. So we need to get people back in this industry. But yeah, it's a super fun class. It's
That is
really
so
difficult
funny.
and painful, and there's a lot of tiers, and the documentation is horrible. And it's the one language I can't use AI for because there's no context, and it will spit out like
random
garbled
stupid stuff,
junk.
right? Yeah.
And
Have you tried Svelte 5?
What?
Svelte 5?
Yeah, it's exactly like Svelte 5, where it's like there's no documentation, none of it exists. So
Yeah.
I actually had to learn it. Come on.
Yeah, where?
Making me
Imagine that.
learn,
Right?
that's crazy.
Anyways.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. Why would you want to know this technology? Do you really want to work for a FinTech? Do you really want to work for a financial
really.
institution?
But it's-
no
but I will
disrespect to
say-
banks and whatnot.
I have access to a mainframe,
Okay.
like personal, and like IBM gave us access, and I'll have like lifelong access just because the way the student program works.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's cool to see it, stuff like that. There's a Unix system services, which is kind of like a Bash Ubuntu shell, and I did get a Next.js app running on that. It's not optimized at all, but I know, like literally, like the create Next app, like this standalone like init package.
Right.
Usually, when you run that on like a MacBook to build, it takes like half a second or something like that. It took 4 minutes to build on the mainframe, which
Yep.
makes sense because it's not allocated for that stuff. It's more allocated for the batch processing, but it was
Right.
still fun. Anyways, so
Enough
I don't
yapping
even
about
know-
COBOL. Enough.
Yeah, I know. Get
Enough
off
talk.
COBOL. It's
Let's
not
talk about
relevant.
Fortran next.
Don't get me started on that. We did a 2-week class.
You
on
did
that.
what?
I just got him started.
Yo,
on that.
no.
No, I'm cutting myself off. Anyways, okay. So, you web development. What was after your web development? The React Native beforehand. What was after that?
Yeah, so Titanium, we grew that. It was in every Fortune 500 company. It was sold it off.
Nice.
And I mean, I was an employee there, so I kind of climbed the ladder, like junior support engineer
Right.
to I don't know, it was like director of product or something.
That's awesome.
And then I was at IBM for about a year.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's where you're interested in COBOL from.
Oh, well, yeah, right, exactly. A lot of people like make fun of me for that. Oh, yeah, how was that Lotus Notes and how was that whatever? But it was actually really fun because it was a project in Orlando for a theme park.
Right.
And that was the whole year was that project. And then they wanted, after we were done, they wanted to ship me off to some other project in Seattle. And I was like, no,
Yeah,
no,
I will
no.
say IBM likes to ship people
No,
around.
I'm not going to do that. But that was really fun. That was a fun project. It was all the APIs for the park. That was really cool. And then in between all that, I started a company that was, you're gonna laugh, has nothing to do with music or this. It was a fishing company.
The fishing.
So yeah, so it was a
Dude, did you have like a bucket list of
I don't know, it just happened.
niches to work for? You're like, all right, we got music, we got web dev, we got theme parks, we got fishing. All right,
Yeah.
next we have aerospace engineering and
space, Mars.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you going to Mars?
No. So we just built that to solve a problem, and long story short, we ended up getting federal and state agencies as customers.
Really?
We had-
That's where you know you struck gold.
Yeah, exactly. We had close to 1 million anglers or fishermen using it, and then sold it to a company in Sweden right around COVID.
Wow.
So,
1 million fishermen is quite a bit.
yeah, it was just about 1 million. Yeah.
Was it all over the world?
No, we started. It was mainly in the southeast.
Okay.
We focused on saltwater regulations. That's where it's really complicated. And so we focused in the southeast, and then we started to expand. I think it's all 50 states now.
Really?
Oh, wow.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. You only hit 1 million. Oh, come on.
Yeah. Well, the company that bought us had 15 million. So
Only 15. Come on.
a lot
So
more.